way behind on political talk on our program, and it's, of course, always been the lifeblood. So let's bring in this morning's political roundtable and kick the football around a little bit. Good to have with us Nolan Finley, editorial editor of the Detroit News. Steve Mitchell is pollster and analyst for Mitchell Research. Below him, Jill Alper of Alper Strategies, and Stephen Henderson, the host of Detroit Today on WDET. I'm really curious, gang, about just your general take on how. Let's start with the national picture. We had a poll. We've seen a couple of polls come out this past week, Nolan. One of them showed us that 53% of Republicans believe that Donald Trump rightly won the last election. How in the world do we move forward and get everybody on the same page for just about anything, if that's where we're going to be?
I think that'll take care of itself as the Republicans start refocusing more on 2022 and prosecuting that election and forgetting about the last one. When their mission becomes beating Democrats, I don't think it'll be hard to bring them together and get them looking toward the future. It happened with Democrats in 2018, obviously. Coming out of 2016, I bet you'd have found an equal number of Democrats who thought that election shenanigans elected Donald Trump in 16. So I think Republicans will be focused on the future very quickly.
I'll have to dig back through some polls. I don't remember seeing anything quite that dramatic. But Jill, let me give you maybe a statistic that maybe even is more eye-popping. About 23% of Republicans apparently believe that the left in America is led by a group of satanic pedophiles. This QAnon theory has taken hold that no amount of truth serum seems to dispel.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that, Devin, and I'm not sure there'll ever be voters who are open to voting for a Democrat. But what we do see in this country right now is Democrats leading at every level, the White House, the Senate, and the House. And here in Michigan, our top 3 constitutional offices. Gerrymandering goes away after we have our new lines, and things are pretty evenly matched. Though despite the pandemic and everything that's gone down, we see the governor doing better, 6 points better in a recent poll, and in some level, those don't really matter. What does matter is the economic plan that's afoot, the resources there are that to spend, the plan that she had just announced this past week to put our economy back on track. We're just 1 point behind in unemployment, the national average, which means we're doing better than the rest of the country, which Michigan tends not to do better during times of turmoil in this country. And every governor has been reelected for their second term back to 1962. So we'll have a top strong ticket.
But you know, actually, let me bring in Steve Mitchell. Steve and I saw each other this past week, and Steve had a really interesting morsel of history in what happens to governors in Michigan when the like party is in the White House. Steve, go ahead and expand on that.
She's absolutely right when she says every governor has been reelected going back to 1962. The problem with that, however, is that every time for the last 4 governors that they've run for re-election, the opposite party's been in the White House. When Jim Blanchard, John Engler, Jennifer Granholm, and Rick Snyder ran, they were running with the opposite party in the White House, and the opposite party in the White House generally does very, very poorly in a midterm election. This time, Governor Gretchen Whitmer has to run with a Democrat in the White House, Joe Biden, and Joe Biden will be unpopular by November of 2022. So I think that this is an historical fact that I think is more important than the fact that they're always reelected. And I think Governor Whitmer is a great campaigner. She has a lot of people who like what she did, a lot who didn't like what she did during the pandemic. But at the end of the day, she has to run with Joe Biden in the White House. The average loss in Congress has been 26 seats when there's when they run in a midterm election.
Really interesting, just kind of the pendulum theory and the way that things generally work. Stephen Henderson, let me bring you in. I kind of gritted my teeth a little bit at the way that everybody wanted to jump on James Craig as a candidate before we even got to the impact on the police department. We're happy to have the new chief today on Flashpoint, so I guess now I'm ready to entertain thinking about what's down the road. But give me your thumbnail on how you think that James Craig would do as a Republican statewide candidate.
I mean, I think he will do better than a lot of people that they've been talking about. You know, he is a popular figure because of his record in Detroit, but also because of his pro-gun stance. You know, somebody that supports Donald Trump, who is popular in the Republican Party. I think if he has a weakness, it's the fact that, you know, I mean, he's never been elected to anything before. He's a police officer. He's not a politician. And I think he will have a hard time keeping up with, you know, the kind of attacks that you would see Gretchen Whitmer and Democrats, you know, launch on someone like that. I don't know that he can kind of go toe to toe with the clever kind of rhetorical advances that Gretchen Whitmer has become really good at.
She's been missing some of it on this Florida flight controversy.
Yeah, they've been tripping over themselves on that. You know, I also am sort of intrigued by this floating of Candace Miller as, you know, a potential lieutenant governor candidate for him. You know, that seems the flip to me. If you put Candace Miller at the top of that ticket, I think you could really give Whitmer a run for her money. Now, Candace Miller has said over and over she's not interested in governor. I don't know why she'd be interested in lieutenant governor, but a Miller-Craig ticket, I think, would have some Democrats pretty scared about next year. So I'm not sure what you'd make of Craig Miller.
Well, but before I get back to Nolan, Jill, I would imagine a Candace Miller candidacy might concern you more than a James Craig one.
Sure, just because she's tested, we know more about her. She's vetted, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I agree with Stephen's assessment.
Yeah,
100%.
She just seems very run resistant. But Nolan, then we have seen people come out of law enforcement, and they have administrative experience. They know how to run things. We've seen that with Warren Evans running the county. But to not have legislative experience, that's a problem, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, every candidate has some deficiencies. And I talked to Craig last week for a column, and he acknowledged he knows a whole lot about policing. But one of the reasons he hasn't jumped right in as a announced candidate is that he realizes he has a lot of work to do on other policy issues, and he wants to be fully prepared. Now, he's betting that law and order, public safety will be a major issue in 2022. I'm not so sure that's true in Michigan, but yeah, he understands he's got a lot of work to do, but he also has the advantage of, at this point, of having really an impeccable character and honest, transparent, and he'll be running against a candidate who's deficient in those areas. So, as I said, they'll both have pros, they'll both have cons.
Did somebody jump in there? Was I here? No, go ahead.
I would think that the advantage you'd want if you were running James Craig. You know, Bill Schuette got about 3.5% of the vote in Detroit last time. Maybe you raise that to 4 or 5. Yeah.
I think Steve.
I think you know, Gretchen Whitmer won Macomb County. I think James Craig could really take that away or take away the lead there.
I'm just about to run out of time. Steve, you told me this past. I think a lot of people, Steve Mitchell, believe that every election between now and 24 is about Donald Trump. You don't think so?
I don't think this election will be. The last 3 have been about Donald Trump. This one will not be, because Donald Trump's not president anymore and he's not on the ticket. Now, he may be again in 2024. I don't think this is going to be an election about Trump. I think Craig has the ability to maybe get 8, 10, 12% out of the city of Detroit. He is very popular, and I tested him years ago on some polling in the city. So I think he's a strong candidate. We've seen law enforcement officers move from sheriff into executive jobs in Wayne County, so he may be a good one running for governor.
Gang, I got to leave it there. I'm all out of time, but long before I ran out of questions. Take a quick break. We'll wrap things up with Flashpoint right after this.